And they finally have found the way to beat 5 hours in the Argus Cycle Challenge in the 94.7. It's called the A to B. You can pedal it like this, you can use the throttle like that, and it could be the next innovation in inner city transport. Certainly, places like Sandton are getting so congested, we need cars off the road. So that's what we're going to do as we go full throttle into the next episode of Tonight with Bruce Whitfield. This is about as close as I'm ever going to become to being a Hell's Angel. It's very nice to see Vincent Truter, who's the chief executive of Cycology, the guys who developed and brought these things to the country, and also Jarrod Lewin from the Green Building Council. Is this the revolution of commuter transport of the future?
I have no doubt that in 5 years' time, with fossil fuel prices going where it's going, green mobility alternatives like the electrical bike is going to change the face of our cities.
Tell me how this is developed, please, because it's like a bicycle, it's like a 1940s style motorbike without the fumes.
Well, this particular one that you're riding was a purpose-built electrical bicycle. I think its main purpose is to be robust with amazing suspension, specifically for our terrain that can vary
Potholes,
often.
yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely cope with that. And the most amazing thing about it is that you charge it in the plug for 3 to 4 hours, Bruce, and you can go up to 65 kilometers range.
Which is a good commuting distance, isn't it? I mean, it's not bad.
It's more than the average daily commuting distance for most of us, and it's less than a shower in the morning.
Is that roughly the cost? I mean, so it costs you less to charge this up than it does to warm up the geyser in the morning, is the point.
Exactly. Yeah.
How many of these things are used around the world? Because we see people in big cities commuting on bicycles, we see them going on mopeds and motorbikes. Are these things being adopted elsewhere in the world?
I think that there's been a real revolution in electric bicycle commutes, specifically in cities where the terrain requires it. If you look at like a place like Los Angeles, even if you look at Cape Town with the hills and the terrain, it requires it. And as we see a larger adoption in corporate environments, we find a lot of people who need to get from A to B without the sweat.
Absolutely.
And this is the answer.
You don't want to sweat in this, I promise you. You don't.
No,
not considering what dry cleaning costs are today. Jarrod, I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy, isn't there, in the corporate sector where you have these companies and chief executives stand up in better quality suits than this and say, we've got this green building, we use less air conditioning, we've got 18 floors of special lighting, blah, blah, blah. They make you bored within 30 seconds. You go down to the basement of the building and it's full of V8s and V6 gas guzzlers.
Absolutely, and it's exactly why we've wanted to bridge the gap between green building and green mobility. We've acknowledged that with the proliferation of green building in South Africa comes a dependency on transport. Green mobility is a movement that we're wanting to be associated with.
Okay, but how do you then sell that concept to a group of executives who, one, are busy, rushed, and quite frankly, are a little bit averse to taking their lives in their hands when it comes to cycling on our roads?
So what we do, a very staple part of what it is we do, is we get executives on the bikes to experience what it is, experience what it might be like to be on a bicycle in Sandton, in traffic.
And they're still interested after that?
And they absolutely are. In fact, they're more interested after they get off the bike than they were before. The conversation completely shifts to what if the bike gets stolen? What if I get knocked over? What if a taxi takes me out? To how do we integrate this? How do we bring this to our staff?
How are you selling it?
Amazing groundswell of interest. How are we selling the bikes?
How are you selling the principle? The bike selling is easy,
yeah.
But how are you selling the concept into the corporate market?
So I think that Jarrod first hit on the major point. I can't run around into your boardroom and tell you about it. I have to have you experience it, and I've learned that you build audience through doing one simple thing regularly. So through our campaign Decongest Sandton, which we've just launched, we've decided to start with weekly bicycle rides from our first station here at Upper Grayston, and we take corporate South Africa out for a tour to all the green buildings in the area. And through that simple experience, we show them, first of all, how incredibly easy and possible it is to connect with the city on street level, right? And secondly, that it's an absolute no-brainer for them to get involved with the green mobility movement.
I mean, I took this for a spin earlier. I managed to get it on a slight downhill up to 42 kilometers an hour, which if I come off without a helmet is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Do I need a license? Because for a 50cc moped at that speed, I do need one.
Electrical bikes work on a completely different system. So your throttle that takes you on this specific model, which is a very specific model, can't take you over 25 kilometers an hour. It's when you pedal and add speed to it that you go over. If it takes you over 25 kilometers an hour on the simple throttle, that's when it needs to be licensed and all the rest of it. So it still fits into a bicycle category as far as our local legislation is concerned. But what you're touching on is the accident variable.
I cycle from time to time, and
Yes.
I know just how dangerous it can be with
Yeah.
idiots on the road. Look, cyclists are their own worst enemy sometimes, but sometimes you're invisible.
Bruce, I passionately, daily commute using the electric bicycle as my principal modes of transport. And from my experience and from the research that we've done up to now, the first reality is the more of us are cycling on the road, the safer the road's going to become, A. Secondly, the city is actively pushing a non-motorized transport and cycling agenda. And I can start rambling off and tell you about the bicycle lanes that are being implemented even as we speak.
No, good, because it's desperately needed, and this can't work
Yes.
without a city buying into the concept and buying into the principle. Cape Town's quite
Absolutely.
advanced on that particular line. Is Joburg taking it seriously?
Well, I don't know if you saw the State of the City address by Mayor Parks Tau, and in the first paragraph he committed to making Johannesburg a progressive cycling city. After the Freedom Ride that was launched
absolutely.
shortly after Nelson Mandela passed away from the Nelson Mandela Bridge through to Vilakazi Street, I mean, more than 5,000 people arrived, and all of a sudden the Johannesburg Roads Agency and the city was closing down roads and making it accessible and possible for all. So we're seeing that groundswell. And what's really important for me is, while those wheels are turning reasonably slowly, Bruce, the important thing is to get the support from the ground up, not from the
Absolutely.
top down.
Completely, but also there are more than 20,000 new people coming into Sandton in the next couple of years. That's thanks to guys like Alexander Forbes, which plonked a brand new green head office on the corner opposite Gautrain. You can blame Gautrain for a lot of this, I suspect. Next door you've got EY, Weber Wenzel is building a head office down the road. Discovery is moving their head office from its current location.
As is Sasol.
And then Sasol is coming into Sandton as well. There are thousands of extra bodies
Yeah.
coming in. Public transport can't cope with all of it, and the fear is if we get another 4,000 or 5,000 cars a day into Sandton, that will be gridlock.
And that is exactly our fear. So we're wanting to foresee that and provide an alternative solution. So already the conversation with corporates that we've had has developed to, can our delivery staff move around on bicycles? Had a conversation recently with the lady who said, I offer a lunch delivery service. This is exactly the solution for that. Executives wanting to move within the Sandton district, whether it be from meeting to meeting or meeting to Gautrain, are interested.
One of the great revolutions, of course, in the City of London in the last couple of years have been what they call the Boris bikes. Barclays, until fairly recently, sponsored bicycles locked up on the side of the road, and you would simply pick one up at a bicycle station, pedal to your meeting, lock it up at the next bicycle station, go to your meeting, you would get billed an amount for using the
Yes.
bicycle. Can that work with this?
That's where we're heading, Bruce. I think that there's a lot of different economic models behind that either will work here or won't work here. We don't have to go into those details. But on the back of Decongest Sandton, what we're achieving at this point in time is corporate South Africa is agreeing to host bicycle stations on their properties. And on the back of that, we're conducting a research project we call the Urban Commuter Research Project. That's going to get us the facts and figures that'll move us forward in this movement.
Because you need economies of scale. I mean, it's pointless having 10 bicycles sitting at a corporate head office and not getting used for a week.
Absolutely. So we get the corporate to engage, we get 10 research subjects to put their hand up and say, we're going to do this for a month, and we're using very interesting research methodologies, one of them developed by the World Health Organization. They developed a tool called HEAT, Health Economic Assessment Tool, which measures the benefit both in terms of health and, get this, economy for every kilometre you cycle instead of drive a car.
No, absolutely, and there are pollution issues and all of that sort of stuff. From a health perspective, though,
Yes.
if you are somebody who would love to take this on the Argus cycle tour because you're a lazy bugger up Chapman's Peak and you don't ever want to have to cycle that again and you need a little bit of oomph just to get you up the hill, is there a health benefit to doing this? Because I can veg on this thing at 25 k's an hour and still get to work more quickly from my home than I do at the moment, stuck in traffic.
Absolutely. And I've proven this through a variety of clients who've not only lost weight, but have managed to increase various health situations for for themselves and conditions. There's absolutely no doubt. You choose how much you're putting
Sure,
into that,
absolutely.
Bruce. You can lazy on the throttle all the way, but at the end of the day, you are going to have to use your legs to get the balance, and you're going to have to use your core to steer the bicycle.
Yeah.
And just engage, going from this in your office, click, 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 to engaging your
Yeah.
body. I always say this mental and physical gear shift is what the appeal is in it.
I can buy an entry-level motor car and sit in the traffic, possibly with an air conditioner, for something like 80,000 Rand, probably as an entry-level car. I can get 2 or 3 of my friends into that. What is the price point of this?
14 to 35,000 Rand you're looking at.
14 to 35,000.
14 to 35,000
What does
Rand.
14,000 buy versus 35?
Well, the 14,000 Rand would buy something with slightly less power in the motor, but a pedalic. These run on a throttle on the right-hand side,
Yeah.
so power on demand. The pedalic, you have to cycle, and it supports that cycling. So it's a cheaper technology than this one. This one is actually here for the simple reason that its robustness will withstand the hundreds of corporates that are about to climb on them with us.
Do you really believe that South African corporates will buy this?
Well, I've already had like 2 thumbs up from some of the biggest in town.
Who's bought in?
Well, first of all, we've got Ernst & Young, who's 100% behind us, supporting us from a research perspective, as well as helping us conscientize corporate around the
Okay, so
potentials of
Ernst
green
Young's
mobility.
doing research for you. Who else?
Yes. We're looking at Nedbank, who has shown interest in
They
the,
claim
in
to
the
be green,
project.
so let's let them prove it.
Let's see what they're into. Variety of
Absolutely.
others.
And will you get your Green Building Council guys? Will they put their green buck where their money, where their mouth is?
Absolutely, and it's one of the reasons why we've partnered up with this movement. In fact, all of the big property players have come on board saying that they're interested. They're wanting to find the mechanism how, and we're giving them that. They could possibly host bicycle stations. They could put their employees on. They could join the Urban Commuter Research Project, and they become activists too. You know, the conversation we've had day in and day out is how do we get involved? When is this coming? Let's make it happen.
I'm
The demand is
looking
absolutely
forward to
there.
the streets of Sandton being taken over by these things, frankly, because provided they don't ride like people ride in places like Hanoi, where if you watch the videos it's
Yes.
terrifying. But is that the future of our city?
I think that it's a combination of modes of transport. I think multimodal transport is how our cities will really come to give everybody access to transport. I see the real market here in people who are young, upwardly mobile professionals in our cities who don't come from families who've had cars, haven't had their first car, and haven't been inducted into that system of car riding and thinking. I see that as the real potential. And if we look at the statistics, that's a lot of people in South Africa that can make a valuable difference. Another interesting tidbit that I want to mention is just that if you look at the European market, bicycle sales down, everybody's got a bike, except in Spain where bike sales outdid car sales recently. Electric bicycle sales relatively down. Premium quality electric bicycles, 800% market increase. Why? Because you don't have a second car anymore, Bruce. You've got to take the kids in the cello to wherever, so you've got a car, right? But in terms of your second mode of transport, you've got something that's conscientious and gets you there quicker.
Right, gentlemen, I want to see how good you are at this cycling thing. Vincent Truter, thank you very much, Chief Executive of Cycology, and also to Jarrod Lewin from the Green Building Council.
Sure.
3, 2, 1, go. Cheers, guys. Good night, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. I'm winning, and I'm pedaling. I'm winning, and I'm pedaling. And I'm pedaling, and I'm winning. I'm going to be the winner. 40 k's an hour. Hardly out of breath. Every fibre of my being feels good. On the next episode of Tonight with Bruce Whitfield, I have no idea what's coming up other than the fact that I might still be pedaling, or maybe just cycling, or maybe just getting around in a way that's so effortless. Good night.